This is Texans TV. Texans Extra Points is sponsored by BHP and by Reliant, the official energy provider of the Houston Texans, and by your local Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas.
We are ready to rock at NRG Stadium. Here comes pressure. Watt with the sack. Throws left side of the end zone. Caught. Hopkins. Touchdown, Houston.
Good to have you with us. We're so very happy that you're watching Texans Extra Points. My name's Drew Doherty, and we've got a heck of a show. It's a powerhouse combo right here in Clint Sterner, former NFL quarterback, Arkansas quarterback, Baytown League quarterback, and you hear him on the radio these days on Sports Radio 610. And the guy who's also on the radio, Mark Vandermeer, the voice of the Texans. Guys, we got a lot to discuss. We got a big game coming up, but stick tight because we've got to get some news of the week out of the way with quick hits. The Texans went to Indianapolis last week and they fell. In the end, they had a chance to win, but too many mistakes cost them.
You know, we've got to, be demanding of each other. That the play comes in correctly. The guys understand what their jobs are, and we're all in it together. We've all got to get it corrected and try to, decrease the amount of mistakes we're making.
With cornerback Bradley Roby on the shelf because of injury and Jonathan Joseph also trying to come back, the decimated secondary needed a little bit of help, so the Texans went out and made a trade for Oakland's Garyon Conley.
Oh yeah, G, he's been doing well, man. He's already played a lot of the same techniques that we've already had in our system as far as man coverage, the quarters, everything that we've done. He already has some experience doing it a little bit, so we just have to get him incorporated with the names that we have for it, the slight differences in technique. But talking to him, he's a great player. He knows football. I don't think he'll have any problem adjusting to the way we do things, especially it being since we're playing his former team. I know he's going to be really jacked up and excited to go out and play well.
It's not often that a player gets traded to a new team and he gets to face his old team, which is what Conley's going to do this weekend. Oakland Raiders coming to town, and they present a unique challenge.
I think they have a very good offensive line. I think they deserve a lot of credit for the way that their offensive line plays, both in the run game and the pass game. So for us, it's a great challenge as a defensive line. It's 2 weeks in a row we're going to see a great offensive line, and we look forward to those types of challenges. But just like last week, the goal is to stop the run and then get after the quarterback, and we're going to continue to do that and hopefully turn those quarterback hits into sacks.
Okay, that's some of what's gone down this week. Clint, Mark, let's start at the quarterback spot. Deshaun Watson didn't play his best game, but still, it's like every other Deshaun Watson start. The Texans lose by less than a score, or they win the game. So they were in reach of getting a victory. What'd you see from number 4 last Sunday?
Well, I thought it was a good game. I thought he fought through some adversity, and I think the key for Deshaun Watson, the next step in his development is keying in on third down opportunities, keying in on red zone opportunities, and really tuning up that aspect of his game. And you saw that the offense struggled in the red zone. A few weeks ago, they struggled on third down. So getting more consistent in those two categories, it's usually the last development part for a young quarterback once he makes it to the NFL. So really, Drew, what I saw was a quarterback that struggled in a couple of key areas. But again, when you got 4 at quarterback, Mark, you've always got a chance in the end.
You got to love them, but they were the number 1 team in the NFL in third down conversion offense coming in, and they didn't play like it against the Colts, and they'll be the first to tell you. And in the fourth quarter, the 2 turnovers. The one pick at the end was a freak fluke thing, Darius Leonard with the juggling attempt by Kiki QT. The one before it, Watson knows he can't throw that football. He's got to hang on to the ball, give himself and the offense more opportunities. The opposite sort of happened against Kansas City, where the third quarter was a bit of a struggle, moved it up and down the field. But in the fourth quarter, they took control of the game. They know they can do that. They have to play like it. They got to cut down on all the other mistakes, too, and I'm sure we'll get to that.
Listen, it's ugly. We all know that. None of us disagree about it. But I think we're all, the 3 of us, pretty good about this as well. We're able to take the long view of things and see that this is not something to get panicked over.
Right.
This is not something to worry about. I know you recently did a chalk talk with him. You did an X's and O's breakdown with Deshaun Watson. What did you gain from that? What did you glean from that? Because you played at the highest level too, and you got a little insight into his mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a guy that doesn't have to work at wanting to be there. He doesn't have to work at wanting to be a film study guy. He doesn't have to work or put a lot of effort in wanting to be around his football team and wanting to spend time with the play caller and really becoming an elite quarterback.
He just devours that stuff.
Yeah, he just naturally. I was not that guy. I was not a guy. Like, I had to consciously go, okay, I've got to go watch 2 hours of film to make sure I flip every stone. He's a guy that just sits there and never thinks about what's going on outside the door. He is literally a football head. You couple that with the abilities that we see him display that are on display every Sunday, and the future is unbelievably bright for this guy. Like I said, it's a great thing, Mark, that we're sitting here talking about Deshaun Watson and what he needs to develop on is the situational aspects of the game of football. That's big. Some guys don't ever get that in their career, and we're talking about it in year 3 after under the sub 30 starts for this guy. So he's in a really good spot, man, and Houston is lucky to have Deshaun Watson, the person and the player, quarterback in their football team.
Yeah, John Gruden said, if you don't like Deshaun Watson, you're a miserable human being, right? So, look, you can win a championship with him, but they know in order to get to that level, to get to be that kind of contender, they've got to cut down on the little mistakes, the false starts, things like that. Watson's fine, okay? You can make a lot of plays. It's uncharacteristic to have the ball in the red zone 3 times like they did in the first half and only come away with 3 field goals. I don't think that's going to happen too often with this guy quarterback.
I love that Gruden statement, but he also prefaced it by saying, and I'll paraphrase, he's like, I've been known to like just about everybody. So that was kind of funny.
Really likes him, though.
I know. I'm a fan. I'm a fan. So we got more to get into about this offense as well as the defense, but we got to hit one of those deep balls, talking about Kenny Stills. We're going to break it all down with John Harris in this week's version of The Telestrator.
Welcome to Texans Illustrated, presented by BMW. I'm your host, John Harris, and we're going to dive into one of the key plays on, I thought, the best drive of the game for the Texans. This was a 1st and 10 play from just inside Colts territory. It ends up being a 44-yard catch by Kenny Stills, who's right over here. Now, this is a route the Texans have used a good number of times, and what I love about this route is it's got so many different wrinkles. And pre-snap and post-snap, you get something different from the Colts. Initially, you look at it and you think, okay, well, they've got 2 safeties high, and he's up here in jam position, so maybe they're playing halves and quarter. So maybe they're playing quarter, half, which is called cover 6. Some people call it different things. Some people call it cover 8 because 2 times 4 is 8. Some people call it 6 because 2 plus 4 is 6. When I was in college, we called it 7. I don't know. That's just what we went with. But that's not what the Colts end up playing here. The Colts end up going to man. So they're going to blitz Milligan off the edge. They're going to bring Willis down to take Carlos man-to-man. When Kiki goes in motion, Leonard's going to go with him. And then Kenny out here, man-to-man, Yassine, and then Desir is going to be man-to-man on Hopkins. And they're going to run this route, Kenny here, Hop here, and this safety's going to the middle of the field. So it ends up being a cover 1, which is man-to-man with 1 safety back here playing free. So on the snap, you see Kiki coming across. He'll get the eyes of Leonard. And then you see Willis come screaming down. And he's coming for the running back. Now, Desir thinks possibly somebody's got some help, or there's going to be some help. And there really isn't, because this safety's going in the middle of the field, and this corner's got Kenny. So we're just going to run this route here and here. Deshaun actually has his pick on this play, because you can see Hopscott, look at that separation between he and Desir. But Kenny right here, when he turns his route this way, watch him pull away from Yassine. Look at that distance. And Deshaun just going to hit him here, get into the light, nice stiff arm, get it down inside the 5-yard line. Now, let's take a look at the protection. It's pretty good. Got a lot going on here with this play, so it's going to take a little while to develop, so got to protect it. 3 interior guys do a nice job there, holding that up. Look how they're holding that up there. That's good. Max is then going to move out. That's an excellent job here. Bump it off to the linebacker as these 2 hold there. Danico Autry taken care of. Milligan, who came on a blitz, Laramie's got him. So what you're going to get is pocket here, but then you're going to run guys back here too. So Deshaun's kind of in this void. It's kind of like an eye of the hurricane. You got all this going on out here, and all this going on out here, and and Deshaun's sitting right in the eye, which is nice. Watch this. He steps up, and then look at this. Kind of all this going on, but nice, calm, and poised in the pocket. And then he just drops a dime to Kenny Stills. What I love about that play is there's so many different options to it. Had the Colts been in cover 6, Kenny and DeAndre would have had things they could have done to react to that, and they would have been just as successful. But in the cover 1, Kenny beat Rocky Sin across the middle, made a great catch, great stiff arm, huge play for 44 yards. The Texans would score the next play. It's a great play by the Texans. They've run that for a while, and they've really mastered that. But when it all comes together to execute, it becomes a big play just like that.
First and goal at the 4. Watson in the gun. Johnson in the backfield with him. Deshaun fakes the give, rolling to the right, throws back in the end zone. Touchdown, DeAndre Hopkins. Just like that, the Texans are within a score of the Colts.
Got some next-gen stats powered by AWS, and big surprise there, not really, because DeAndre Hopkins is a good target. 29.3% of the team's target share. That's second in the NFL. Only Michael Thomas has more. When you got a guy like that, you throw to him, don't you?
Absolutely.
That's a good receiver in DeAndre Hopkins, a great receiver. I'm underselling him. He's exceptional. He's a Martian, we should say. Mark Vandermeer, Clint Sterner. Let's talk about pass protection. Over the last month, it looks like it's really tightened up to a large extent, has it not?
Yeah, look, there's no doubt that the offensive line has got significantly better, but I think it starts with Deshaun Watson and Bill O'Brien as well, Tim Kelly, whoever's calling the plays and whoever's planning and designing, and everybody that has a heavy input in the plan going in.
Yeah.
They've done a phenomenal job over the last couple of weeks relative to that, making it easy on the offensive line. A lot of quick throws. You talked about DeAndre Hopkins. You know he's one of the best receivers in the league, regardless of how you slice it, right? All of a sudden, 2 weeks ago, he's got 9 catches for 55 yards, multiple third down conversions, a couple of fourth down conversions. Now you've got the best receiver in the league that is one of the most complete receivers in the league relative to helping his team, and that's all because of play calling, right? And so those guys have done a great job of scheming and planning, and it's helped the protection up front.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, Laramie Tunsil, what an addition he's been for the team now. Right tackle, iffy situation with Howard going out, then Ron Johnson. You bring in Skipper. We'll see how it goes tomorrow.
Yeah, Skipper's a Razorback. You know a little bit about him. Give us the Reader's Digest 20-second breakdown on him.
Yeah, just big body, talented, not uber talented like a Laramie Tunsil, but where he limits in talent, he definitely makes up in effort and energy and nastiness, and he will never fail you for a lack of effort. He'll give you everything he's got, and he'll be successful because of that.
All right, Texans make a trade. They get a cornerback, Gary and Conley, and first reaction you might think, well, if the Raiders are trading a corner to a team they're about to play, he must not be any good. But then you dig a little deeper. 2 years ago, he's a first-round pick.
Yep.
The type of coverage he plays, not really what the Raiders did well, and it's exactly what the Texans want to do. He's young. You also have Lonnie Johnson. He's young. Both these guys are under contract. You might maybe knock on some glass. You might have some cornerstones for the future there at cornerback.
They would not be getting him, the Texans, if they didn't know him a little bit. They spent some time with him pre-draft, so they know Conley. And for the Raiders, they didn't pick him. This current regime of Mayock, Gruden, so they want their own guys in there. So it makes some sense to get a third-round pick. And for the Texans, clearly they're investing in right now and what they see as the immediate future, not necessarily this year only, maybe next year or two, but they want to make a run here, Drew. I mean, here they are. They just lost to the Colts. They got a lot of football left this season and some really huge games right in front of them.
Yeah, I didn't set that up very well. It is a very much, help things out now, stopgap move. But I'm looking long term. This could be a great move, for the future too.
Drew, this is a great get by Bill O'Brien and the panel. I mean, look, people talk about wanting a big name guy and an all-pro. I mean, and those guys just don't come available very often, right? And so this organization's ability at a time when there is a desperate need to go out and get a guy that was a former first-round pick 2 years ago, has got 2 years on his contract. The future, the sky's the limit relative to this guy's future. Drew, this organization they may be sitting in a year in a beautiful position relative to secondary with Bradley Roby and these guys, and J. Joe's getting along in the
in a few weeks, maybe. You get Roby back. You have Conley, J. Joe on the man. Look, J. Joe plays hurt. He plays no matter what.
He's tougher than stale beef jerky.
He really is.
Well, Mark, and that's why it's such a big time move. But golly, I mean, let's add on to why it could potentially be a great move. It's highly likely that this guy's extremely talented. He's still talented. He was in a tough spot in Oakland, and he comes in here and the change of scenery does him some good. It's much more likely that's the case than a former first-round draft pick that's a 4-4 guy all of a sudden gets here and he's a bust.
But he's got to go to London twice. He's already been there, now he's going to go back next week.
Hopefully he likes Europe.
His passport's getting a workout. All right, the three of us, we were all much younger, much friskier back in 2002. But what about the Houston Texans? What was their first road game? We talk about going to London twice. When did the Texans first go on the road? Don't answer it. We'll have that answer later on in the show. This is Texans Extra Points.
Fitzpatrick digs in, backs up to throw, swings it out right side, caught J.J. Watt! Oh my goodness! J.J. Watt with the touchdown reception as the Texans get their touchdown to number 99, a 1-yard TD pass.
Check it out. That's J.J. Watt's first touchdown catch. He had 3 that season, 2014, at Oakland. The Texans are playing the Raiders. This is the Ford Studios. This is Texans Extra Points. Drew, Clinton, Mark, and guys, Derek Carr. He's not getting sacked. He's actually doing a few things, and he's got the Raiders playing 500 ball when a lot of folks thought this was going to be a tough season for them.
Yeah, Drew, look, I mean, this is a team that you look at, they're sitting 3-3. The AB dysfunction in the preseason probably still is what most people think about when they think about the Raiders. But 3-3, and they've played a monster schedule to this point. Find me a team that's had a more difficult schedule than the Raiders, and I'll buy you a steak tonight. They beat some really good guys. They've lost to some good guys. And Derek Carr, he can beat you from 7 yards behind the center and making all the throws. He's a guy that you better not overlook.
Completing well over 70% of his passes. You know, he's dying to win here where he was a little kid. He played in a mascot bowl here once upon a time. His brother was the quarterback. We all know the story. And the other thing about the Raiders, this is their 5th game away from home, wherever home happens to be for them. And it sounds weird to even say Oakland anymore because they're going to move to Vegas. But the London game was kind of a home game, but not really. They've been traveling a ton, so you have to hope that they're maybe a little fatigued from this. But they haven't been playing like it. Last week, they just got blowtorched by Aaron Rodgers, and you might have to score 28 points in this game to win it because Carr, the way Jacoby Brissett kind of found those high percentage crossing pattern pass opportunities, Carr can do the same thing, but I think the Texans will be ready this time.
Yeah, you bring up the blowtorching at the hands of the Packers. Before that, let's rewind. They were 1-2, the Raiders were. They leave for Indianapolis, they win there. Then they fly from Indianapolis straight to London, win there. That was a pretty productive road trip. They were away from home for almost 2-3 weeks, and now they're 3-3 like you're talking about. So let's get into players to watch in this game, and Mark, we'll start with you. Who are you keeping an eye on Texans-wise that's going to be a key for victory?
Well, I think DJ Reader is always a key because you want to crush the pocket in pass rush situations, but you also want to stop the run. And I know that they stopped the run last week, but it didn't work out. You have to start there with this team, okay? Jacobs is really good running the football, coming off back-to-back 100-yard games. Didn't run for 100 against the Colts, but the running game was effective against Indy for Oakland. So Reader, Grave Dave, the LPC Lunch Pail crew, those guys are going to have to do a good job. I love Reader. I want to be Reader for Halloween, but that might be difficult for me.
I'll go Benardrick McKinney. I think the offense has to play much better to win this week, no doubt about it. But Josh Jacobs, man, over 300 yards the last 3 weeks. They're really getting that running game on track. And I think Benardrick McKinney will be key in stopping that run. Benardrick McKinney will be key for this defense to get out of Houston this week or stay in Houston this week with a victory.
All right, you guys went defense. I'll be Mr. Contrarian. I'll go offense. How about Kenny Stills? Yeah. You just saw the Raiders trade away one of their corners. So they got 2 young, very talented guys out at corner. Let's test him because you got DeAndre Hopkins out there. You got Kiki QT. Let's test him with Stills. He's played really, really well in that comeback from the hamstring injury. We got much more Texans Extra Points to go, so stick with us. Having a good time with Clint and Mark and with you.
Texans Extra Points is sponsored by BHP and by Reliant, the official energy provider of the Houston Texans. and by your local Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas.
Texans Extra Points rolls on, and earlier in the show we asked you what was the first road game in franchise history. Well, 2002, week 2, the week after the Texans had beaten the Dallas Cowboys. They go out to San Diego. Was not a good one, but hey, you got to go on the road sometime and you got to rip that Band-Aid off. Mark Vandermeer, Clint Sterner, it's been a fun show with you guys, and it's that time of the show where we get keys to victory. The First Community Credit Union, keys to the game. So, Mark, let's start with you. What do the Texans have to do to get a win?
Well, I think you got to go back to being the number 1 team in the league on third down, or at least close to it. Third down conversions are key, and Bill O'Brien always talks about getting off to a good start in any kind of drive with a first down play of 4 or more yards, and then that makes third and manageable if you happen to get there. But that's got to happen, Drew, and I think it's obvious that they got to cut down on pre-snap penalties. They lead the league in false starts. That cannot happen. That's the opposite of what I was just saying. Now it's 1st and 15 or 2nd and whatever. You're behind the sticks. Can't have that in this game because the defense is going to have some issues maybe against Oakland. You got to find some ways to matriculate the ball down the field, run clock, keep it away from them. Just put some points on the scoreboard. Just outdistance yourselves from them.
I'll go with red zone offense. Kind of piggybacking what Mark said. I think it's critical when they get the opportunities in the red zone. They got to punch it in there. I'll dial it in a little bit tighter, a little more focused. The tight ends and Duke Johnson. I think those guys were not used effectively last week. I think Bill O'Brien knows that. When they take Hopkins away, when they take Fuller or Steele away, you've got to have answers, particularly in that red zone. I believe there's a heavy emphasis on the tight ends and Duke Johnson being pass targets inside the red zone, and I think that's critical with the defensive injuries. We're liable to see flags again, and what does that do? You can't ask any more from those guys, but what does that do? That narrows the margin of error for this offense. Offense has got to be special in third down and red zone.
Take over.
That's perfect. You guys lead right into what I want to say. You talk about narrowing margins. Make sure those margins are wide and don't turn the ball over. Be clean with the ball. The last 2 games, the Texans were underwater as far as turnover differential. It's the only 2 times all season long. They've been good about it coming into the last 2 weeks. Don't turn the ball over, and I think this offense, these guys, roll to victory. All right, Mark, Clint, thanks so much for coming on. Let's do this again. You guys are always fun to talk with and talk to. And you do it again, too, with us. Sound good? We'll be back next week. Hopefully after Texans win, we'll be talking about London. It's going to be a special edition of Texans Extra Points. Until then, we'll see you later, and go Texans.